we don't hear about this problem, Jared, because there's a stigma about suicide and mental health in general in our culture. I mean, when you look at countries like India, which is in the film, they read the suicide notes on the evening news when a doctor takes his or her life. So, but in this country, there's a stigma about suicide, and especially physicians in our culture have been held up to this almost inhuman-like status.
Welcome to the Licensed to Live show, where professionals, doctors, champions, VIPs, attorneys, and those in public office discover strategies that help you restart and gain what is lost when you find yourself accused. If another has doubted your integrity, questioned your credentials, or caused your actions to come under scrutiny, you are in the right place. On the other hand, if you have never felt the knot in the pit of your stomach when legal papers are served, the heartbreak of disappointing your family when the lock clicks shut on handcuffs, or had to appear before a board of review, then be aware, the longer you serve, the more likely you are to find yourself under the microscope of those who judge. Prepare yourself for this uncomfortable possibility. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jarrett Patton.
Welcome to episode 37 of Licensed to Live. My name is Dr. Jarrett, and I'm your host for our journey today and every day you choose to listen to this show. If you or anyone you know has been dissed by the healthcare system, please invite them to join us along this journey. Just go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcast and subscribe to the Licensed to Live show. And while you're there, please rate this episode and give me honest feedback so I can make sure that I provide you with the most up-to-date information about career and life changes. When I say dissed, I mean disengaged, like, this medicine thing isn't what it's cracked up to be. Too much paperwork, too many administrators telling me what to do, or I don't have enough time with my patients. Dissatisfied, like, I don't feel like I'm living up to my full potential. This career simply isn't fulfilling. Disgruntled, like, being a doctor has taken too much of my life away. I am in debt up to my eyeballs, and I am upset because my work life is too full and my real life is left barren. Or disenfranchised, like I was when I had my medical license temporarily suspended. This show is not for those physicians who are happy and fulfilled in their clinical career or have never had a setback in life. If you are in this category, feel free to listen, but make sure you tell a friend to join in. Today, we'll be talking with Robyn Symon, a director and producer of many films, including Transformation, Behind the Blue Veil, and her newest film, Do No Harm, exposing the Hippocratic Hoax. We'll be discussing specifically physician suicide today. Before we get started, I would like to let you know about a special opportunity coming up. We have opened up a few additional spots in the License to Live one-on-one coaching program. And this 3-month program is designed to help you refresh and restart your career so that you have a better life. This transformational event will help you have the credibility, confidence, and courage to make that leap into the career you deserve. There's only a few spots remaining for this New Year's special, so make an appointment with me today to see if you qualify at timewithdrjarrett.com. That's spell out the word doctor, JA2RSE1T.com. Welcome to the License to Live show, Robyn. I'm so happy to have you on this show to discuss this important topic that has so many people talking. I saw a trailer of your film and can't wait to see it. It'll shed so much light on a problem that has been buried for years. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jared. It's great to be here. I appreciate it. And yes, can't wait for you and for everyone else who hasn't seen it yet on the film tour to see it. I know there are a lot of frustrated people like, where can I get this? Where can I see this? Well, we have a distribution strategy, and as much as I want everyone to just see it, we we just can't. We can't, because if it's available to everyone, then there's no need for a broadcast and there's no need for a film tour. And I wanted to do a film tour because I wanted people to get together and to talk about these issues, not to hide in their room after rotations and watch it and be all depressed. It's a film to open a dialogue.
Well, that's excellent, and I really appreciate it, because I know I've been chomping at the bit to see it as well. But I know you have a strategy, and back in Philadelphia, we always talk about just trusting the system, and I'm going to trust your system because I know it's going to work to the best for everyone. Well, now, you have an esteemed career in television, including PBS, HGTV, Discovery Health, as well as all of these films that I mentioned before, including Behind the Blue Veil and Transformation. Tell me this, what was your very first job and what led you to become the director and producer that you are today?
Well, I majored in journalism, and so my first job was print as a print writer, and but I always loved mixing music and story, so I knew I didn't want to just be a print writer, so I became a TV news reporter in Texas, where you are right now. In Austin was one of my jobs.
Oh, wow.
Arthur, and then Austin, I covered state politics for CBS News at a station called KLBJ.
Wow, that's incredible. So pretty much from the beginning, you found out right away, well, what I'm doing right now, I don't like, I'm going for something else. So you went right into the television stations, newsrooms, and you were doing it. That's great.
And then from TV news, then I went to work at PBS. So PBS is, long form. So I went from doing, 90-second stories for the, nightly news to long form, which is a funny transition because we're used to sculpting things down in the news to, as short as possible. So when I started sculpting these documentary films, I would wind up with like a 5-minute documentary. I was like, no, I have to rethink how we structure a documentary, because documentaries are, like 80 minutes long. How am I going to do this? So it was, it was a transition to and a learning experience to see how you go from doing TV news to long form. So, but I love it. It just, you have to have a lot of patience because it takes years. I mean, for Do No Harm, I've been working on it since 2014.
Credentials verified.
Well, that's incredible that you've made that transition over this entire career. And so you've done so many different things to producing now just wonderful documentaries and films. And I'd like to congratulate you on your new film, Do No Harm, Exposing the Hippocratic Hoax. Many people of our listeners here have taken the Hippocratic Oath upon graduating medical school. It's a tradition that is very long-standing, and it's a great play on words. Tell us what inspired you to produce this film.
So, a lot of people say, well, what do you mean by the Hippocratic Hoax? And what I mean by it is that, you take an oath to do no harm. And part of that whole white coat ceremony that is in the film is this idealism that you go into medical school thinking you're going to spend a lot of time with your patients and you fill out these personal statements about why you want to be a doctor and the kind of doctor you're going to be. And then you quickly learn when you get to medical school that it's a business. And the shorter amount of time you can spend with a patient, the better. And so that's the hoax. The hoax is this promise that you're going to be the doctor that you want to be, and realizing that it's not possible in the current system. So that's what we have to expose and fix.
That's so true. If you guys missed the episode with Dr. Ian Wilson when we talked about the business of medicine versus the practice of medicine, I will leave that in the show notes because you're absolutely right. There people come in with a lot of idealistic goals as they're coming through the training system in medicine, but realizing that the real world is much different, and a lot of people become disenchanted over that.
Right. Well, it started in 2014, it's so funny when people say, I've got a great idea for a documentary. They don't realize it's multiple years. Like, I have to think, do I want to spend the next 5-6 years of my life working on this topic? It's not as easy as we make it look. But, but this all started back in 2014 when these two young doctors jumped from the roofs of their hospitals within 1 week of each other in New York. And I come from a family of physicians. My grandfather is a physician. My uncle is a surgeon. I have 2 cousins at the Cleveland Clinic. So, they were just like, they're the rocks of our family, they just the pillars. So I just couldn't imagine why young doctors, knowing, what med school is about and how much it takes to just get through it, why they would, and how brilliant doctors are. And it would have to be like a logical decision to jump in their minds. So I just wanted to know what it was, what was driving them to do such a thing. And then, of course, how does this impact patients ultimately?
Those are excellent questions and excellent answers that I know you're going to provide to a lot of us when we get the chance to see the film. I know a lot of people ask me about, given that all I went through with the criminal justice system, the medical board, losing my job, and so forth, did I ever contemplate suicide? And thankfully for me, that was never the case. I knew I just had to fight, and I would be able to still help others and help people in other capacities. However, for some of my clients who have had devastating or sudden career transitions, they have admitted to me that they have contemplated suicides and that it really had crossed their mind. And this is alarming to me. I think the old research demonstrates that over 400 physicians die by suicide every year. And recent estimates state that it is much more. Yeah. Why do you think we don't hear more about this problem?
Well, we don't hear about this problem, Jared, because there's a stigma about suicide and mental health in general in our culture.
Oh, no. Judgment.
I mean, when you look at countries like India, which is in the film, they read the suicide notes on the evening news when a doctor takes his or her life. So, but in this country, there's a stigma about suicide, and especially physicians in our culture have been held up to this almost inhuman-like status. And, it's deserved. Doctors deserve to be held in high esteem. They work hard for it. They're smart, and they deserve those accolades. But there's a downside to that, and that is, depression, burnout, and suicidal ideations that they have to hide. And it often leads to, self-medication, alcoholism, that they just feel trapped, completely trapped. So it's a problem, but I think the actual numbers are maybe 3-4 times that 400 number, which incidentally is like, 3 classrooms of med students. But I believe it's much higher because I personally, through interviewing so many family members, they don't put suicide when their loved one dies by suicide. They say you'll see accidental death or died suddenly, these like code words. We don't really know what the statistic is because of the shame. There's nothing more prideful when your son or daughter becomes a doctor, you personally, Jared, you're the pride of your family, as doctors, all young doctors are. So imagine someone who was held up to the rest of the family, like, look, my son, the doctor, all of a sudden, dying by suicide. The shame of it is so intense. So that's why it's so hidden. There's so much stigma, so much shame.
I think those are brilliant points because depression affects physicians just like it does the general population. And medical boards, hospital systems, and really the entire healthcare system can make it extremely difficult and maybe even punitive if people disclose that they have depression or any other mental health condition, because then their license and their livelihood could be in jeopardy. So many people go on and on and on and suffer through their illness without getting the proper treatment or help. And they've, just as you said, they may turn to alcohol or drugs or other ways to self-medicate in order to get themselves through. And I think that is a great point that you brought to us. And it is extremely scary that there are so many people that commit suicide that are physicians every year, and we just have no idea how high that number is.
And I mean, suicide is really just the tip of the iceberg. You've got high levels of depression. More than 50% of physicians are burned out. So physician suicide is real, but there's so many people suffering with other conditions that are just below the surface that may or may not result in suicide, but certainly result in an unhappy life and putting patients at risk. So one thing that's in the film is the stigma that these hospitals feel and the hidden nature of suicide because of the shame, because of the damage to their reputation, because of the fear of, what will patients think, their brand. So what we're trying to do is destigmatize and pressuring hospitals to deal with wellness, to deal with this, as opposed to turn a blind eye, which is what they've done for decades.
And it's a great solution because physician wellness should be emphasized just as much as we as physicians emphasize wellness to our patients. Yeah. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not going to be good to take care of anyone else.
What's going on now in medicine is you see these resiliency classes and wellness classes. I really think there's a danger here. This is like a Band-Aid to the problem. The problem is systemic. It's abusive work hours. It's how physicians are treated with such disrespect, not believed, that really treated. I mean, I'm from the outside and I could not believe how doctors are treated like bad children, like misbehaving kindergartners. I mean, it was shocking to me to see how doctors were treated. Med students for sure, the bullying, the pimping, but even physicians who have gone through all that, how they're treated by the bean counters of these big box clinics and hospitals.
Oh no, not another test.
So we have to reverse this, but all of these resiliency classes, and it just, it makes doctors feel bad if they're failing again, if they don't participate in these resiliency courses or do what's on this checklist, like, yoga and start a community group or go square dancing. And, so if you don't do this, somehow you're a failure at your own resiliency. When physicians, I'm getting on my soapbox here, physicians are people on the planet. So it's not you as a physician, it's this system that, forces you to work ridiculous hours, has no regard for work-life balance, and doesn't prepare physicians for dealing with life or death in any meaningful way. It's just go on to the next patient and just expecting them, to just deal with it on their own. My uncle, who was a surgeon, said it was never talked about. They never offered any kind of coping skills for physicians when they lost a patient. And so he had to come up with his own way, and nothing he even discussed with colleagues that would be a sign of weakness. And he was a brilliant surgeon for 35 years. So why is that? Why are there no support systems in place from the hospitals for physicians, especially, surgeons and, ER doctors who are really on the front lines every day?
That is very well stated. In fact, fire starters, I want to pause for a moment because you heard it here. I mean, we've been talking about this on the show several times before, and it really is systemic. It's not personal. And to a lot of people out there, hospitals, administrators, it can be business, but we take it as physicians that things against us are personal because it feels like they're attacking us as a person, as a character. And it is business to many other people. And you have to understand that. So the problems are so deep rooted. It's really systemic. And we do need an overhaul. I agree with you, Robyn. We need an overhaul to do something better because physicians deserve better.
They did a survey on, what are the best solutions to combat burnout in medicine today? And it was this very comprehensive study. And ultimately, you know what the number one solution was to combat burnout?
The comeback.
No, what was that solution?
Time off. I mean, it's like you don't have to be brilliant and go do all these surveys to know that, to combat burnout, you have to allow your physicians to go home, sleep, have a life, and maybe you need to hire more doctors and more residents and cut into your profits. But if you want to really cut out burnout and reduce medical errors, look at the schedules.
There you go. Sometimes simple solutions are the best solutions. And if you're in need of some time off, you can't get some time off, or even if you're in a crisis situation, right now, I'm going to have all the links to some crisis intervention and some places where you can get some help right away. Now, I do understand that you are giving private showings of your film to select hospitals and universities right now. How can someone find out if they will see the film when you are in their town?
So on Facebook, we do list, what's happening each month. If they go to the Do No Harm film on Facebook, we post it there. We don't really keep it up on the website, but if you go to the website, you can request a screening at your hospital or medical school. And we offer discounts for student groups. So, and sometimes medical societies co-sponsor events for a medical community. So if they go to donoharmfilm.com/screening, then they can fill out a request form and someone will get back to them and we can start the process of a screening at your school or hospital.
So I'll make sure I put the links both to the Do No Harm Facebook page and the website screening so that if you are interested in bringing Do No Harm to your town, you'll have that information right there. So after the tour, what do you have planned next for the film?
So after the tour, which will be through the year, so we started in September in New York during Suicide Awareness Month. We had 2 sold-out nights at the Angelica Film Center, Wednesday and Thursday night, and you know how tough it is to get doctors to go to the movie. I mean, I don't know how often you can go to the movies, but doctors aren't known for going out to the movies that often. So
that's true.
To get 2 sold out nights, and it was sold out way in advance, like 2-3 weeks in advance. So I mean, and people don't buy tickets to the movies in advance, so it was quite an event both nights. And then we played area hospitals, like we did 15 Northwell facilities. We did Bronx, Lebanon, and we'll be doing others. So next, after the film tour, which started in August and will continue until next September, I'm also putting together an educational kit, which will have a DVD and a discussion guide. We'll start doing orders or pre-orders in the spring. So every residency program, every hospital can buy the DVD and the kit, which is a discussion guide, which is call to action, resources, all of that. And then they can use the program in different lengths. We cut it up in like 20-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute for grand rounds. So you can use it however you would like at your own institution. So that's coming up. And then we're in talks with public television about a broadcast for next September for Suicide Awareness Month. So it'll be offered to 350 public television stations nationwide. Let's see, and then, Jared, it will be available to the public via Amazon and iTunes and all that.
Excellent. And I know already, and folks, I haven't seen it yet, but I know it's going to be worth the wait. Mm-hmm. So make sure you check out the Do No Harm Facebook page, because it may actually be in a town near you coming soon. So stay up to date with that. Right. Well, I'll ask you one last question. Is there anything else that you would like to say to the listeners today?
The most important thing, Jarrett, is for everyone to know that it's not you. It's not you. You're not weak. There's nothing defective about you. It's a system. It's the system that has taken advantage, abused too many physicians for too long, too many med students for too long. And we're trying. We're on a path now. There have been a lot of news articles about burnout and suicide and just mental health in general. So there's a lot of talk about it. So the most important thing for everyone to know is that you're not alone, and we're trying to expose these systemic problems. And that's the first step in coming up with real solutions, not just resiliency and yoga classes, but real systemic fixes that will protect not only physicians, but the patients that they serve.
Final judgment. Licensed to live.
You heard it here, fire starters. It's not you. I couldn't say it better myself. It's not you. It's the system. So we have a lot of work to do. And this is really the beginning of an incredible movement. And I thank you, Robyn, for being on the show today. You've been a great guest. You provided us with great information and an absolutely wonderful conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. My pleasure.
Remember, fire starters, if you or anyone you know has been dissed, please invite them to join us along this journey. Simply go to your favorite podcast distributor and subscribe to Licensed to Live. And while you're there, please rate this episode and give me honest feedback so I make sure I provide you with the most up-to-date information about career challenges and life changes. Make sure to check out Do No Harm when it comes to your town and connect on Robyn's Facebook page at Do No Harm Film. And don't forget to pre-qualify for the License to Live one-on-one coaching program by making your appointment now at www.timewithdrjarrett.com. That's time with, spell out the word doctor, J-A, 2 R's, E, 1 T.com. See you next time.
No matter how disheartening the moment of accusation sounds, how deep the pain of immobilization stabs, or how bleak your future looks, no one can take away your license to live. Keep Dr. Jarrett's expertise handy and unlock your future. Go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or another podcast player and subscribe right now to Licensed to Live. See you next time.